Part of our work has been around the area of criminal justice and police reform. National Action Network sees that our challenge has been that in every era of the black experience in this country, there have been those issues that we've had to wrestle with and had to confront and resolve. And just like we fought against slavery after being enslaved for over 262 years, and then the area of Reconstruction, and then lynching, and then Jim Crow segregation, there was in each one of those battles the need for federal law, because even though we are faith-based, we're not waiting on people to change their hearts. We must change their behavior. And the one area that we have been very adamant about in this generation and in this era is the era of police brutality and the era of racial violence. So we start our convention this year for you that are watching all over the world and you that are here as leaders of network with our Mothers of the Movement panel. Let us not forget, to you and I, a lot of these that have been killed is an issue. But to these, this is their flesh and blood. This is their child. They did not ask to become leaders or activists or symbols. They woke up one morning and their whole world had changed. So we bring the Mothers of the Movement every year. We have fought every one of these issues. We are right now, as I speak, involved with the issues around the murder of George Floyd and work with his family every day. Have prayer with them even while the trial is going on. We are now working with the family of Brother Wright, young 20-year-old killed in Brooklyn Center and Louisiana. And we'll be making announcements about that later today. But let me bring to the stage first, several years ago now, this nation mobilized unlike ever before until we saw George Floyd. Don't you ever forget that it began when we responded to the call from Sanford, Florida, of a young man killed going to his father's home. And his mother stood up and helped to champion a movement that has not lost its breath or velocity since. Let us welcome to the stage the mother of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton. We also have with us a young man that was killed in Sacramento, California, who was headed home and was shot by police 30, not 300 yards from his grandmother's bed. And his family refused to take it. And they have built a movement there in Sacramento and has recently opened a building, a multi-service center in memory of him, and as an institute around social justice issues. And we're honored that his mother flew all the way from California. The mother of Stephon Clark, Sequita Clark, is with us. Sequita Clark. And we are joined by one that the New York delegates see all the time because she's at the Saturday rallies, but some of you that are from around the country don't get to see her as often. Her son was one of the reasons that many of us was outraged with George Floyd, because the first time we saw someone killed by police begging for their life, saying, "I can't breathe," 7 years ago, a man named Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York. I got a call from Cynthia Davis, our Staten Island office head, the night he died, and she put me on the phone with his mother. And we bonded and have been together ever since as an organization, and she and I together. And I bring to the stage now the mother of Eric Garner, Gwen Carr. And last but not least on this panel, about 2 weeks after I talked to Gwen Carr and we began marching in Staten Island. It was a Thursday night that I talked to Gwen. That Saturday we took 1,000 people to Staten Island and kept marching. I remember after one of those marches, I got a call from our national field director, Reverend Toon, and he said, there's a man on the phone that wants to talk to you that said police just killed his grandson. I said, Toon, we just left a march in Staten Island, handle it. He said, no, but he really wants to talk to you. I said, Toon, you can handle it. He said, but he's crying, Reverend. I said, well, connect him in. And he told me the story about how police had killed his grandson. And he said, Reverend, if you're near a computer or an iPad, you can pull up. And he told me where to go. And I looked and pulled up my iPad, and this young man was still laying in the street. They had him lay there for 4 hours. And this young man did something that I have not seen since. And that is, young people said, this is too much. In no small measure, because his mother wouldn't let it go. And the killing by police of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, is where we got real traction and attention on this issue. Many people took and said a lot of things, but few stayed with it. But these mothers stayed with it, and we've stayed with them. I've told all of them when we got started, you're going to meet a lot of folk, and as soon as the cameras are gone, you ain't going to hear from them no more. But we'll be with you, and we're going to stay with you. And she, his mother, always calls me. Well, I won't tell you what she calls, but that's between me and her. But she's family to me, and we've been family ever since, and we'll be family from now on. We couldn't have a convention without the mother of Michael Brown, Leslie McSpadden. She got to hug everybody. They've got their own fraternity, their own club. And I always, you know, I always tease, because they're close with my family, I always tease Dominique that I want to see what hair color Leslie gonna come this year to the convention. That's my friend. Let us hear, before I bring on our moderator, he couldn't be here because of the trial, but we have a virtual message from the brother of George Floyd, Philonise Floyd.
I would like to personally thank the National Action Network, Reverend Al Sharpton, Chairman of the Board, Reverend Franklin W. Richardson, and the chapter leaders around the country for their unconditional support, love, and prayers during this difficult time as we continue to seek justice for my big brother, George Perry Floyd, Jr. Thank you.
Give a hand to Philonise. When we started National Action Network 30 years ago in 1991, we were in a battle in Bensonhurst, New York, Bensonhurst, Brooklyn specifically, around the killing of Yusuf Hawkins. And not long after that, a celebrated attorney moved to New York and came to National Action Network and said, let's partner, let's do things together. We had heard of him. He had done several trials, Geronimo Pratt, and of course, the O.J. Simpson trial. And we worked shoulder to shoulder on many cases. Abner Louima's case, Amadou Diallo's case. And Johnny Cochran was a lawyer that worked with us. We had a House attorney that was bigger and better than anyone, but he did not seek to have high profile. That's Michael Hardy, who will be chair. Is Michael here yet? He's probably somewhere prosecuting. Okay, he's in the back. Michael said, I'm the House attorney, but others can do the high profile. But Johnny got ill, and Johnny passed due to cancer. Dr. Richardson and I spoke at his funeral. And I thought that we were going to have to wait all by ourselves. But God always has a ram in the bush. God always has somebody to replace everybody. God does not deal in confusion. He deals in continuity. There was a young boy that was killed in a boot camp in Florida. And this young boy's family got a lawyer, a young, fiery Floridian lawyer that called. Many students were marching. He asked for me to support, and I met him there. From there to Trayvon, on and on, I watched him. He was not about greed. He was not about name recognition. He was not about trying to supplant those ahead of him. Many people enter activism out of competitive spirits. Some of y'all got that spirit in here now. I can feel it. You know, I come out the Pentecostal church, I can discern these things. But this man said, I'm here to serve, and I don't care who's out front. I don't care who gets the attention. I want to see justice. And he worked so until, as we saw the election of Donald Trump, and we felt we had no one sitting high protecting justice, I started calling him the Attorney General of Black America, because that's who he is. If you think of justice, if you think of who will not sell out, if you think of who's not just trying to get click clout, that's the numbers up on the social media, but don't care about getting justice for your case, who doesn't go for trying to get a lawsuit. There's some lawyers that go for civil settlements because they get a piece and not social justice. He is committed to justice. There's nothing that he can ask of us that we won't be there for. He's going to not only moderate this panel, but the one behind it. He flew in from the trial in Minneapolis to be with us today, and going back afterward as we see closing arguments next week, and I'll be with them. Let us welcome, you heard the Attorney General that Mr. Biden put in, but now it's the Attorney General the people have put in, the Attorney General of Black America, the Honorable one and only Ben Crump.
Good morning, National Action Network.
Good morning.
Let's first acknowledge the man who always answers the bell. I call him my co-counsel, even though he's not a lawyer, but he plays one on TV very well when he makes the case for all of these victims who have been taken from us far too early. I mean, it goes back to Martin Lee Anderson. Before Trayvon, in 2006, a little 14-year-old black boy was beat up in a boot camp by 8 sheriff's deputies. And when we were fighting to say that his life mattered, this is before Black Lives Matter or anything, this Martin Lee Anderson, this kid was kicked, punched, suffocated. Reverend Al Sharpton came down to Florida, did not think it robbery to come down there and say, I will stand for justice. National Action Network will stand for justice. And from there, each and every family in America that comes from our community that has faced the tragic, horrific injustices of not only police brutality, but stand your ground, any other injustice that has come towards our community, the one person that we could always count on was our national civil rights leader, my mentor, my friend, and the person I call first, and that is Reverend Al Sharpton of the National Action Network. And he has never not answered the bell. Even before the media gets there, he answers the bell. And as each one of these women can testify to, he still answers the bell long after the cameras have moved on. And so I thank him, I thank Reverend Richardson, I thank Reverend Toon, I thank Michael Hardy, and Dominique Sharpton, Ashley Sharpton, everybody associated with the National Action Network, because we all in this struggle together for justice and equality for our people. So thank you, National Action Network. And before I begin our very important conversation, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you all. Obviously, we're all watching the trial of the torture of George Floyd, Leslie, watching him on that ground with the knee on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And I have to tell you, Reverend Al, I really thought about Michael Brown a lot as I watched that video. I thought about Michael laying there on that concrete in Ferguson, Missouri, because George was laying on the concrete face down in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I remember when the calls started coming that morning, I went to take a shower, and when I got out the shower, his family was calling me, my office was calling me on the phone with his family. And I had glanced at the video, I hadn't looked at it thoroughly, and Ms. Carr, it reminded me so much when I started looking at that video, him saying, "I can't breathe," I immediately thought of Eric Gardner. And after I got off the phone with his family, the first person, and honest to God, the very first person I called was Reverend Al Sharpton. And we said right there, we cannot let them get away with killing our children like this. And we started a national campaign to say that until we get justice for George Floyd, none of us can breathe. And so now we're, I think, days away from getting a verdict that I hope will be a tipping point that will set a precedence in America that holds these officers accountable, Sequette, Leslie, Ms. Carr, that don't put them above the law, but make them accountable to the law. Stephanie, that's what our hope is with George Floyd, because the whole world is watching this case, and this really is our moment to finally get the reform that we so desperately needed after Michael Brown was killed, so desperately needed after Eric Gardner was killed, so desperately needed after Stephon Clark was killed, so desperately needed after Terrence Crutcher was killed, so desperately needed after Ezell Ford was killed, so desperately needed after Laquan McDonald was killed, so desperately needed after Alton Sterling was killed, so desperately needed after Sandra Bland was killed, so desperately needed after Pamela Turner was killed, so desperately needed after Altiana Jefferson was killed, so desperately needed after Breonna Taylor was killed, so desperately needed after Andre Hill was killed, so desperately needed after Anthony McClain was killed. And those last few names were all in 2020. And so this is what we're fighting for. And I really believed it, y'all, that it'd be a tipping point, but 10 miles, and I'm just so outraged. I'm so outraged. Within 10 miles from where the Chauvin trial is going on, I cannot believe this. 10 miles while the trial is going on. We got word that a police officer, she mistakenly pulled her gun and killed yet another unarmed black man named Dante Wright, 20 years old, just barely starting his life, has a 1-year-old baby who's going to have to grow up without a father. And he's almost 2, Sabrina. He's running around saying, Dada. And right now, when he says that, everybody just drops their head. And because we cannot believe with this trial, one of the most important trials in the history of civil rights concerning policing in America, that a police officer would not de-escalate, that a police officer would use excessive force. I just can't fathom that this would happen in the state of Minnesota. Every police officer should be on their best behavior. Every police officer should be using their best standard of care. Every police officer should be doing everything in their power to de-escalate the situation. But yet again, you have them doing the most when it comes to our people, doing the very most. I mean, think about George Floyd, a $20 bill. They could have gave him a ticket. They didn't have to arrest him for that, Leslie. And Sabrina, y'all, this lieutenant in Virginia, I mean, they didn't have to arrest him. Most white people, when they pull them over, they give you a ticket and you go on about your business. But why is it so quick? Every black person, they say, oh, we want you to get out the car. We want to have this confrontation with you. And so it's like Eric Garner. They could have gave him a ticket. They didn't have to arrest him, but when it's black people, they do the most. And so, unfortunately, yet again, we're having to prepare for another funeral that Reverend Al Sharpton is going to have to come and preach while America watch to say that our children's lives matter, that we love our children too. So y'all, please pray for the family of Dante Wright as we'll wait to see today if the police officer is going to be charged or not. But leading into our first question for these mothers of the movement, these incredible women who have turned their pain into power, transformed tragedy into triumph, and continue to just astound us all with how they carry themselves and define the legacy of their children. This first question, dealing with Katie Wright, who unfortunately is now part of your sorority that no mother wants to be part of. We understand today that the medical examiner is going to release her son's body to the funeral home, and they're going to go to the funeral home to begin making arrangements for the homegoing services. Starting with you, Ms. Carr, and we'll go down the road. What advice would you give Katie Wright, this devastated, broken-hearted mother, as she prepares to go on this journey to not only get justice, but this journey just to try to figure out how to give her son the proper homegoing services? Ms. Gwen Carr.
Yes, I know this is a hard thing for her, as it was for all of us. And I would just say to her, first of all, she has my love, she has my condolences, because as she go through this, this will be so difficult. This will be one of the most difficult things that she will ever do in her life. Because as we know, children are supposed to bury their parents, not parents bury their son.
Amen.
And I know, like in my case, The most difficult thing was, you know, not knowing which way to turn, who to believe in, who should we listen to. But you have to pray about it. You have to pray that God put good people in your path, as he did with me, and that they will lead you in the right direction. And with that, I say, you know, stand strong, stand on the word of God, and don't falter. Always lift up your son. Don't listen to what the media has to say about him. You can say your child's name better than anyone else can say it. And you talk about your son. You tell people the truth. Tell them your truth. Don't let the media and the papers define him.
Amen. And so quick, going into that same question, but I will add to it, they have already begun the assassination of his character on Fox News. They are talking about everything, every video he's ever posted on Facebook and social media now. So, Ms. Sequette Clark, your advice to Ms. Katie Wright.
First of all, I would say, Katie, I'm so very sorry for your loss. I offer you my most sincerest condolences. This is a club, like he said, that no one wants to be a part of. Unfortunately, you are, but you have sisters here who will be here for you anytime, day and night, myself included. The number one thing I would say dealing with the assassination of your son's character, do not dignify the slander and the defamation with explanation. It is not up to you to explain your son or defend your son. How dare them put you in that position? So often we are put in the position to defend our child or what our child was doing when that is not the case here. That is not what we should be doing. People should be comforting us instead of asking us for explanations. So do not defend your son. Do not explain his personality to those who are looking for a reason to prove him guilty. And secondly, write your own way. You know, there's no handbook to this. You have to do what's best for you and your family. It is not up to how anybody else did it. It is not up to what people think you should, or how people think you should do it. It is up to you to get through each and every moment the best way you can. Remember to pray, as Mother Gwen said, but also remember to take yourself into consideration. Feel what you need to feel, and breathe.
And Sabrina Fulton, same question, but I want to add a little to it. Obviously, they're saying because this young man tried to run from the police, he should have just complied, trying to indicate that even though this officer says she made a mistake, this little young black kid had to be perfect to live. What advice would you give Miss Katie Wright?
I would tell Miss Katie Wright to, yes, definitely just breathe. I would tell her to surround herself with positive people. It's too much negativity out there, and it's too many people that's going to be in her ear. She needs to make sure that she's connecting with strong, spiritual, positive people, and that's going to guide her a long way. She doesn't need to listen to the negativity, because there is no perfect victim. Exactly. Everybody has something that they're going through or something that they went through, and they should not be judged based on what they did previously. The fact still remains that he should still be here. He should still be alive. Those are facts. They're going to say whatever they want to say in order to try to break him down, to break her son down, to make him seem less than a human being. But as a human being, he deserved to live, and we definitely have to do more when it comes to police violence and use of force and reasonable cause and all of these things that we hearing about it now. I just want us to get back to the basics about human life. Like, you can't make a mistake where somebody is dead. You make a mistake where you misspell somebody's name, not that they lose their lives. And so we have become a country that's so accustomed and used to people dying, and then we move to the next case, and the next case, and the next case. We have to pay attention to each and every case and find out what's going on so we can know what we need to do moving forward. But my heart goes out to the family. They're going to go through a lot, but just definitely connect themselves with strong people.
Thank you so much. And to you, Ms. Leslie McSpadden, same question, but I want to add just a little bit to it. Obviously, what has been happening in Minneapolis, this could not have come at a more inopportune moment, because it reminds me so much of Ferguson after the tragic killing of your son. What advice could you give to Miss Katie Wright, not only as she going to that funeral home, but so many people are looking to her and her family to give messages to the people who are protesting and supporting them? What advice would you give her, not only about dealing with this extraordinary loss, but also this request of her and her family to talk to the supporters, and what should she say to the supporters out there?
Well, first to Katie, I wish I could see her. I wish I could hug her and hold her and just be there with her, because there is no set of words that you can say to a grieving mother or a mourning mother during that time. They just want to know that people were there to support them. You know, you want to look around the room and see that people were there. You don't really have much to say because you're trying to gather yourself. What just happened to her is unbelievable. She's in the twilight zone right now. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what to say. So I would ask the public to be sympathetic of that. Don't ask so much of her. She just lost so much. Give her time and give her chance. But for Katie, you've been Dante's mother for 20 years, and you will forever be known as Dante's mother. And you get to control the narrative. We have seen them come out and try to kill our children over and over again after they've already did it. So we know that. We know that game that they play. We know the defense game that they play. We're not going to let them do that this time. We're not going to play into that. She can control the narrative. Her family can control the narrative. And this is going to be really hard for her. Watching her baby in a casket, picking out his last outfit, picking out a plot, having a hold-up. The whole thing is excruciating. Sitting in a funeral home, putting together an obituary for your child. It's heartbreaking. And it pulls you down to nothing, and you feel like you don't want to live anymore. And I want Katie to know that you're going to feel that. But what you see on this stage are women and mothers who want to uplift you, inspire you, and push you to keep living, because we have so much work to do. And it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm so thankful for those who stand in the gap and in the middle when we get weary and tired, because this is our life that we're living and not just something we're looking at. And I'm getting emotional because I sympathize with her, and I know how it feels. It's not an easy thing to talk about, and it's definitely not an easy thing to live through. But if you can lean into God, you lean into God, because He's the only one who can make this happen. Change has to come. Bills have to be presented. Legislation has to change, and we need laws that protect our children. There is nothing out there written in the books that protect us as colored people, black and brown people, minorities. And I'm working so hard, been working ever since I lost Mike, on presenting a bill to legislation and to Congress. And I'm so thankful for Cori Bush in St. Louis, who's just been elected, hoping she can push that envelope for me. We have to support those who support us, and not just support and get people on the ballot and elect them because that's a household name. We have to support people who are willing to work for what we've been suffering with the trauma that we deal with daily. Mental illness is real, and I'm a victim of that. And I just wish I could hug Katie. And my heart goes out to her. But I just want her to know for a while, you need to shut down the Facebook, shut down the IG. You
Come
owe
on.
nobody nothing. You focus on your family as much as you can. And when you feel like you want to come up for air, when you feel like you want to say something, then let her speak. Please don't push her to do more than she can right now. She's already lost so much.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie, for that very passionate response. And you was kind of getting ahead of me, talking about legislation and all, but we'll get to that. Before we go to that, starting with Sabrina on this one, then we'll go back, and then we'll come to you, Leslie, and go to the other side of the panel. How do you all do it? How y'all looking so good and fly and together after going through this terrible ordeal? What's the secret? Sabrina, what's the secret? I mean, you got your pants outfit on, looking like you about to go be the star of the concert.
He played too much.
There is no secret. I can certainly say we don't look like what we've been through. You know, you hear that. Yeah.
That's right.
You hear that, and even when you feel broken on the inside, you try to put things together so you will feel better about what's going on. There is no remedy, there is nothing. This is something that we have to carry with us the rest of our lives. And, you know, I know they understand when I say there was a time where when the tragedy first happened, because it's not a story for us, when the tragedy first happened, there was no hair being done, there was no showers, there was no teeth being brushed, there was no clothes being put on. I mean, I wore pajamas for a while. You know, I didn't want to go anywhere for a while. So we have to, it's a process that you have to go through for you to even allow yourself to start doing those things again. You feel that you're in a space, a dark space, where you don't want to do any of those things anymore. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with positive people, because when you're not in a position to lift yourself up, you want to have people around you to lift yourself up. And that's what I believe that all of us have done. We surrounded ourselves with positive people to help lift us up.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sequette, how are you looking so good and carrying on after your son was killed in your mother's backyard?
I just have to be so honest and transparent and say, but for the grace of God.
Amen.
It's nothing else. It's inexplicable how I'm here today. It makes no sense how, you know, I would kind of fly. It just don't make sense, because I was broken into several pieces. My heart was crushed into itty bitty pieces, but by the grace of God, what someone said on the panel, you have to lean into God. You know, once you remind yourself to breathe, because that's the thing that we go through, we walk around holding our breath for so long because the pain is so intense. It reminds you of labor. It reminds you of the contractions. So you have to remind yourself to breathe, because you're holding your breath. Literally. Literally, there were times when I could be like, oh my God, breathe, Sequette. You know, so once I learned to breathe again, I realized that God would be the only way I would make it through. And I leaned into him. And once I leaned into God, he started to heal my heart.
Wow.
And that's how I'm still here.
Leslie, mixed pattern? Same question. How you always look fly, Leslie. Like Reverend Al said, you're going to have a fly hairdo?
Well, that's due to my remaining 3 children. I've told this story numerous times, but at the time, my youngest was 6, and I kept them home from school for 2 weeks. I didn't want to let them out of my eyesight. I didn't want to let them away from me, and she came to my door fully dressed in her uniform for school, and she said, Mom, I want to go to school. And that right there, I wanted to die when I lost Mike, but that made me want to live.
Come on.
Because I needed to continue to live for my remaining 3 children. And now my daughter is 22, my son is 16, my baby is 12, and she's so in tune with me emotionally and my feelings, and like, She sent me a message this morning and said, whatever you do, Mom, have a good time. You know, she doesn't really know what I'm doing, but she just wants to see me smile, you know. So
Yes.
that made me want to live. And I should have wanted to live for my remaining 3, but it's just so hard. And I know they know, but that's what made me.
And then the matriarch of the Mothers of the Movement.
That's right.
How you do it, Gwen Carr? How you look so, not only fly, but look so young in that old young get up.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Mr. Crump. But you know, it's all because of leaning on the Lord's everlasting arm. Because without him, I know I would have lost my mind.
Yes. Come on.
With all that I've gone through, all that I've been through, and like my son Eric, he's part of my story. Because a lot of people don't know I lost a son before Eric. So it just was a continuation where my heart was just shattered. And I just thank God. I thank God too for my daughter. My daughter, she had to remind me. She said, "Ma, I'm still here for you. I'm still here." Because sometimes it's just a mental thing. You might forget about when things happen and you're surrounded by grief, you forget you got other loved ones that you have to care and who is so into you, and you're so into yourself that nothing else matters at that moment. But then they bring you back, and I thank God. I thank God for the rest of my family, for my grandchildren, who always support me, who still supports me now. My little grandson is here with me today. He comes see about his grandmother every week. And I just love that. And we have to remember that it is the people who was positive with us, and now we got to be positive with other people, with other mothers who come into this circle, because we know this is not a popular circle. This is a circle that no one wants to be a part of. But if you have to become a part of it, we want to embrace you, enlighten you, and encourage you, because we know we've been there, we've done that. So we got a little lift now, so we want to inspire you. And just like Miss Katie Wright, we want to love on you.
Yes.
Thank you. I think we got time for maybe just 2 more questions, and this next question is a little more difficult because I know with each one of you, you all have been fighting to make systematic change and reform in policies and procedures, and that's so important because whatever happens in your individual case affects you and your family directly, but it's the policy reform that affects the entire society and community, and more importantly, the legacy as well. So, and I know with Leslie, we have some measure of success with President Obama doing the body cam legislation in the spirit of Michael Brown. And then, Sabrina, I know there was some stand your ground reform initially after Trayvon was killed by the Neighborhood Watch volunteer, a private citizen. And then, Sequoia, I know you all achieved probably the greatest measure of success when California had that groundbreaking law that said the police can only use deadly force after all other measures have been tried, which is being challenged by the courts now on the Supreme Court level. And then I know you, Ms. Garner, were talking about making sure that you get rid of the chokehold and so forth. But even we see George Floyd, how many years later, died from a carotid artery constriction. With that said, I'll start with Leslie, and we'll go down the row. How challenging has it been to try to get meaningful legislation to prevent what happened to your child from happening to other black people?
very challenging. This year makes 7 years. Mike's been gone, and I've...
And let me interrupt you just for a
Yes.
second. Talk about that and talk about what foundations and things you have started to try to impact those legislation initiatives.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I would say it's very challenging. It's been 7 years, and we haven't crossed any finish line with any of the legislation that we've tried to introduce. I've partnered with Travis Washington of the Hands Up Act. I've also partnered with the Breathe Act, March for Black Lives, and it's one other one. God, it's on the tip of my tongue. But recently we had a panel discussion, and Stacey Abrams was a part of that. And so I'm trying to work from every avenue, even from those that you know, when people were like Trayvon's situation, because what's important is that it stops. You know, what's important is that there's a measure put in place for our people. You know, we have no circumference when it comes to protecting our black boys, our black girls, or our black people. So I've partnered with these people over the last 7 years. We've even written a bill with Howard Law students, which has been written for now 4 years. So as I stated with Cori Bushman, our newly elected congressperson in Missouri, she was boots on the ground when everything happened to Mike. She didn't win the first election, but she won the second one. So I'm hoping
Perseverance.
that exactly she will push this envelope for us, and that we will finally see some type of form of legislation put into place where we can make this a law, and not just a law for Missouri. We need these things to be nationwide.
Yes, right.
Because there's all these different police departments have different protocols, and we're hearing about the training, but we've never seen anything about this training.
Right.
And then there's millions of dollars going into this training. What is it? So we're asking for transparency as well. We're asking for accountability, but with that, we're outlining what we would like to see put in place, because we know how it feels. We don't want those people making any more rules for us, because they don't come from these places that we come from, and they're not being hurt like we are. So just know that I'm working in all avenues and all aspects for everybody, not just for my son.
Amen. Thank you, Leslie. Sabrina Fulton, same question.
I think in Florida, a lot of people take it as a joke when you try to get legislation passed and when you try to get laws, you know, repealed and things. It seems like they don't really realize how serious these things are, because it's not happening in their community. They're pretty much, you know, watching on social media, watching on the news. They're not experiencing this in their household, in their family. So it's like they take things for a joke. It's not really, they're not seeing the impact of why we need these things in place. So yes, the Trayvon Martin Foundation partners with different elected officials, with also the police department and other organizations that push for these gun laws and things to be changed. I am glad to see President Biden, sorry. President Biden is making changes when it comes to gun laws and gun ownership. I'm glad to see that, but it seems like on the state level, it goes extremely slow. So maybe on the federal level, the administration level, we'll get things moved. It's just not moving fast enough for us, and we're just losing people of color left and right, and they don't understand the severity of it. That's my point.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Sabrina. Miss Mama Clark.
Okay, so to answer the first part of your question, we have a foundation called I Am SAC Foundation that my son Devontae Clark founded, where I am the CEO now. SAC stands for Stephon Alonzo Clark. It just happens to also be his initials of Sacramento, so that was ironic. The pillars that we've based the foundation on that hold us up are, number one, bridging the gap between law enforcement and at-risk communities. So there has to be a dialogue that how do we get what we want? We have to have a dialogue established with law enforcement, and when that doesn't work, then we create our own law enforcement. So community policing is something that we believe in there. Also informing and educating on policies and legislative change. So like Mr. Crump said before, we have the Stephon Clark law in place in California, and I stood next to the governor when he signed that into law. There are 3 pending cases right now in California where officers are being charged with murder and manslaughter underneath the Stephon Clark law. So
That was massive
yeah,
when they changed that
thank
law.
you. That is what it is about. It is about doing that, and then providing resources and safe spaces for impacted families and others in our community, so that this type of thing never happens again. It also we also need to be commemorating the life and legacy of our children. So that's what we do. We commemorate the life and legacy of Stephon Clark in a positive light, so that his name will never be forgotten. Ways that we have done that. We have the Stephon Clark Day of Reflection, March 18th in the city of Sacramento. We have the Stephon Alonzo Clark Playground in the city of Sacramento. We have voter ballot boxes implemented in the construction of schools, where people in our communities can go and vote without being judged or suppressed. It's called the Era of the Vote program. So we're reaching out in many different facets to not only commemorate my son's life, but to make a positive change in our cities, our state, and our countries. And so that is our main goal, is to get what we're doing to spread. We have the Stephon Clark Stephon's House, which is a 24-hour resource center open to the communities in Sacramento, where you can go get an education, life skills, healing spaces, job placement, and it's open 24 hours a day so that they have somewhere to slide into and be safe and not have to interact with the police. And so there are all different types of ways that we need to address what's going on for us, like Leslie was saying. We have to address the underlying factors in our communities that people are afraid of bringing up, right? And then we take that to another level, and we address the way that people are dealing with us, the way the state, the nation deals with us, and we have to say, okay, that's enough. And then we have to sit down and write down what we want and make it into action. So, actionable items.
Wonderful job. And I just remember the way y'all shut Sacramento down. A lot of it I credit to the National Action Chapter in Sacramento. I mean, y'all do understand, every city council meeting, they had the council for over 6 weeks because they would not stop until those police officers were dealt with. So that is a credit to the public working together. And finally, Ms. Gwen Carr, your efforts at legislative reform and your foundation work.
Yes, in New York, I was on several bills to get laws changed. I was successful on a number of them. One was the Eric Garner anti-chokehold bill, although we want to get national legislation on that.
That could have saved George Floyd's life.
Yeah, the George Floyd bill is a continuation of that, to get national attention on that, a national legislation on that. I also was on the Safer New York Act, which was passed, and the Right to Know Act, which says that when someone is stopped, if you stop someone unlawfully, you know, there's nobody looking for you, you're just walking while black or brown, and they stop you, you have to give them permission to search you.
And we got to let our people know our rights.
Yes, so that's why we have to get this out and let people know that this is what's going on. And I'm also on the 50A. The 50A law was passed where there's more transparency with the police officers when they kill one of our children, that we have to know why they killed them, who it was, and you know, and they fought against this, saying that we want to know their social security number, we want to know this and that. But lo and behold, the bill passed, but the PBA was trying to overturn the passing of this bill. But on the way here today, I got word that everybody threw the towels in, so now it stands. Thank God.
Wonderful. Okay.
And so, you know, and there's so many different bills that I'm on, and we got the governor to sign the bill with myself, and Valerie Bell went while the governor signed 4 of the bills that we were on, and he televised it as we were signing, as he signed it and gave us the pen that he signed it with.
Amen.
Wonderful.
So I just, and then we had the special prosecutor, the executive order for the special prosecutor, that was signed into law. So all of this we had to fight for. It didn't come easy. When we first started fighting, we had to go up to Governor Cuomo's office. He wouldn't have a meeting with us. We would have press conferences, and then he still didn't meet with us. So next time we went to Albany, we decided to take makeshift coffins and set them all in front of his door and ask him what was he going to do with these bodies, okay? At that point, he agreed to see us, and he did tell us that if in session his special prosecutor bill wasn't passed, he would sign ours. And which he did. We made him change a lot because there was a lot of flaws in it. So we said we want to take it home and we want to look at it, because we had a lady lawyer with us when we went there. And he says, well, you know, if I die tonight, another governor's not going to sign this bill. And Miss Baez just looked at him and pointed her finger and said, you just don't die.
Okay.
And so we did get a lot of things, you know, it's going slowly, because once you get these bills passed, you got to make sure that they're enforced.
Right.
Yes.
That's the main thing, get them enforced.
Thank you so much, Ms. Guerra. Boy, how time flies when you're having good conversation, don't it? So final question for each of you, and we'll start with you, Ms. McSpadden, and go down the row. Can you tell how National Action Network has helped you in your, I keep getting these notes. We gonna wrap. Y'all mind hearing us talk just a few minutes more? All right, y'all don't mind? So I'm objecting. Judge, I want more time. So final question to each of you. How National Action Network has helped you in your journey from beginning to now, and then what do you want to tell people that's on your heart? Anything you want to tell them that's on your heart right now in America? I didn't get to ask the question, and I had intended on when you all saw George Floyd video for the first time, what did it make you think, and did it bring back memories? No, I said I wanted to ask you all that question,
yeah,
but I have been censored by the court, as I'm often done, to go ahead, just don't keep talking about our lives, because I go in courtrooms and I fight the court to talk about our lives.
Yes, you do.
So, with Ms. McSpadden, how has NAN helped you, and what do you want to say from your heart to the people?
Well, I had something written that I wanted to speak to the people. Do I have time to do it, or would you want to move on?
I'm
and come
taking.
back to
You
me?
want to be last?
I can. Last
Okay.
is first. You don't have to be last.
Sequetta, Sabrina.
Let's see.
So I'm going to start off by saying how National Action Network has helped me. My foundation, the Trayvon Martin Foundation, my family, our family is connected with not only the Sharpton family, but the Nan family as well. From day one, all of you know Crump was the lead attorney that worked for us, and he called Reverend Sharpton in. And what a lot of people don't know is Rev has a lot of people reaching at him. He doesn't go chase stories. He doesn't, he doesn't have the ability to go after something that is happening. They come to him. And so that's very important to remember, because you're going to hear something come up about that. And the same for Crump. Crump doesn't have to go, Attorney Crump does not have to go and look for cases. The cases come to him. And so just pay attention to that. You know, when you hear people talking about ambulance chasing, and you hear people saying negative things about people who have helped a lot of families. I could probably talk about Reverend Sharpton and Nan and Ashley and Dominique and all the rest of the people that work for Nan for a long time. But I remember we were in Sanford, Florida at a rally, and Rev found out that his mom had passed away. And he could have decided not to come because that was an important reason not to attend a rally. But because he had already spoken to us and he had already told us that he was coming, he felt that's what he should do, and he felt that that's what his mother would have wanted him to do. So I can tell you from day one, I have came to every single convention, and I will continue because the love that Rev has for me, I have for him as well. And so whatever you all need me to do, I'm here. I'm a part of the family. I'm a member. Make certain I'm a member. And I'm going to make sure that we stay connected because you have to support people who support you.
Amen. Well said. Sequette?
So, I believe in National Action Network. Reverend Sharpton, I spoke with him 3 days after my son was killed. My son, Devontae Clark, Attorney Trump calls him the commissioner.
Devontae.
We love you, Mommy loves you. He come. I was laying in my mother's home in the bed, and he came running up the stairs and he said, "Mama, Mama." He said, "Reverend Al Sharpton's on the phone. He want to talk to me." And I was like, I got on the phone, and I said, "Hello," and he was like, "Miss Clark, is there anything that I can do for you?" And I said, "Can you give the eulogy for my son's funeral?" And he came in and did that. And before he left, he said, excuse my emotions, but he said, "When the cameras are gone, if you need anything, call me." And when the cameras were gone, I was broken, and I was going through life changes, and I called him a few times, and every time, he answered. Every time.
Every time.
Every time. He just doesn't stop answering. And so that, he's a man of integrity, and I thank God for his life.
Yes.
Amen.
I thank God for National Action Network, and I would like to say, when you said say something from my heart, I did write a little something down. So what's next for I Am SAC Foundation is we're fundraising. To get funds, we need to build our own center, funds for our programs, and eventually want to collaborate with the other mothers here on stage as well as other impacted families to create houses in each city where our loved ones were killed. So it's like we have a Stefan's house. We'd like to see a Trayvon's house. We'd like to see a Mike's house. We'd like to see an Eric's house where our families where you mothers would have, a say-so on what legacy you would want to work on in your own houses. But we need to come together and make sure that our children across the nation have somewhere safe to be. And so I'm just asking everyone to visit our website, www.imsacfoundation.com, where you can donate and become a part of the movement, not the moment.
There you go. Very good.
And before you go, Miss Gwen, my phone is blowing up. I'm sure they pulling Reverend Al back to MSNBC. Breaking news. God sits high and looks low. They just charged the police woman in Minnesota with second-degree manslaughter. So we continue to fight. We continue to fight. We continue to fight. And I know we have, we're going to get to that. This is more important. Miss Gwen, how has Nan helped you, and what do you want to say on your heart?
Okay, where do I start? Nan has helped me from the very beginning, from the day that my son was murdered. The next day I heard from Reverend Al. I heard, and then he's been there. It was not only for my son's death. He was there for my husband's death, for my granddaughter's death. He's just been there for the family for the long run, and he's still there. And anything that I call on him for, he's always has answered me. So, you know, I had heard a lot of stories in the beginning, and you know, you have to judge people for yourself. You don't let people define another person for you. You have to do that yourself, and that's what I do. And their family has become a part of my family. And me, myself, Leash, all of us, we love the Sharpton family. And I just want to say that there is nothing that I would not do. Like he supports me, I feel it not robbery to support him and the Nan family, you know. And even like now, just like we've seen on TV, you seen, like you just mentioned earlier about Quran, I always say his name wrong, but
Dante?
Nazario. His name is Nazario.
Oh,
Quran
okay.
Nazario.
Okay, in
He's
Virginia.
part of my family, you know.
Oh, in Virginia?
Yes, he's part of, and I didn't even know it when I seen the video. I'm up there looking ashamed. There's another. And then when my niece called me and said, do you know that's Quran? I was too shocked to know. She said, this is happening again, you know, first to my cousin, then to my nephew. So I says, oh my God. You know, but I thank God that it got out. This happened back in December. I seen him in February at uncle's funeral, and he never said nothing about it. And he was traumatized. He couldn't say anything about it. He thought the police was going to retaliate. But then, thank God, he did get it out there.
Thank
and
God
I
for
want
that
everybody
video.
to pray for him, and I know Nan will stand with him. Thank you.
Yeah, because if they'll do that to a veteran, God knows what they do to our children, just ordinary on the street. And finally, inappropriately with those fly shoes and everything else, Leslie McSpadden. We will hear you talk about how Nan has helped you and what you want to say from your heart. And then I'll give you what we're going to do. I think we're going to try to have y'all stand with us at this press conference regarding this breaking news. And I want to say this, Leslie, before you go. You know, the only reason we get to George Floyd, where the officer is being, you know, prosecuted so zealously, and that this policewoman is being charged, because I don't think without these women testimonies and these women fighting in the vineyards over the years, I don't think that they will be so quickly prosecuting these cops now. So you all are making a huge difference. I know everybody's working together, but it's your son's blood that are allowing us to finally get some measure of justice. Amen?
Amen.
So,
Stand up
Ms.
for a second.
Spanish,
Okay,
if you may.
thank you. Well, I wrote a poem, and I would like to read it.
So you gotta do some press.
A lot of people come up to me, and I'm sure they speak to you all, and they ask how you're doing, and before you can get out how you're doing, they say, are you okay? You're good, right? And it's like, no, I'm not okay. And that's what my poem is titled today. Before I read it, I do want to say some words about Rev. Al Sharpton and National Action Network, who have been there for me every step of the way. When I first met Reverend Al Sharpton in Four Seasons Hotel, downtown St. Louis, I was just still in the fog, and I couldn't believe this person was standing in front of me and taking me by the hand and leading me through these marches. And he was there for me. He became what he said, you know, we call each other something, we'll keep it between us, but I'm gonna let you know, I call him Granddaddy. I've never known a grandfather because my grandfather was deceased before I was born, but that's the empathy and the familyship that he showed me. And he has been there for every phone call, every program, every panel that I've asked him to join and come to St. Louis to participate and support my fight, my continued fight and justice for my son. So I love Nan. I know that Nan loves me, and I will be with them as long as they're with me. And so I'll read my poem. Pain, pain, rains down behind my broken smile. I'm not okay. Child, I'm tired. I'm not okay. I try to remind my jumbled mind that it's okay not to be okay, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste, they say. But when will there be a day when black boys and girls matter, when their bright and brilliant future isn't left to shatter? Without ducking bullets from government-issued guns made to strike down unarmed black bodies in which they let lay in the sun, I'm not okay. I try to hold on to the past, want to make memories of Sunday dinners at my granny's, laughter floating in the air, fishing trips in the country, and roller skating, the barbecue smell, St. Louis barbecue smell in the air. And then I remember the quick trip before it went up in flames, and before the world knew my firstborn's name. I'm not okay. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to just get along. Don't ask questions, shut my mouth, and just keep moving along. Ain't that what the towering bigot dressed in a bulletproof blue badge told me to do? Ain't that what all black mamas are supposed to do? Just trying to get justice. I'm sorry. Let me restate that. Ain't that what black mamas trying to get justice are supposed to do? Like Rodney said, can't we all just get along? I'm not okay. I try to cook to busy my mind, make all of Mike's favorites, while slowly crumbling inside. Hanging on like thread unraveling, a prayer and a wish I could get a do-over, because August 9th was a life makeover. I'm not okay. I gotta be okay for my 3 babies left. The eldest was like Mike's twin. Now she's about to bring new life in.
Come on.
I know it's God's sin, but I can't help but be nervous. This world feels like it's coming to an end. I'm not okay. I want her to know that I tried real hard, still trying to move on up like Mahalia said. Lord, I gotta make sure the cycle of abuse and fear are broken for good. Trying to shake off those hood blues while stepping into some new shoes. Need God to order my steps in a new direction.
Come on.
I'm not okay. My baby's all slipping through my hands like air some days. I just want to grab all 4 again and hold them tight, but I can't. I can't wake up from this endless night, this constant fight. The kitchen floor like quicksand swallowing up my feet, legs, and my spirit. Like a hungry, relentless beast counting every minute. I'm not okay. I hear my granny's voice holler for me to come in, for the streetlights come on. You gonna be all right, Ned Pooh, that's what they call me. Her whispers shake me to the core. I can't give up just yet. That old 60s battle cry for justice rattles inside, like fire shut up in my bones. There's just some things I can't let ride. But no matter what, I'ma find my way home to justice, where I refuse to hide. I'm not okay. I let out the screams of 1,000,000 black mothers. 400 years of struggle frozen between my ears like a dam, released a mother seeking peace. My tears flow down Canfield into the blood-soaked concrete. Blood stolen from my baby's veins in vain. I'm not okay. I'm searching for help, but my arms fall limp. I've made so many mistakes. The taste of old regrets sting my tongue, suffocate my thoughts. I can't breathe. Hands up, take me instead. I want to be okay. Mind made up, had enough. My son's voice telling me to press on, stand tall, put my armor and my shield on. It's me, Mike, God and God against the odds. I believe truth will prevail. It can't be stopped. I'm going to be okay.
Come on.
In the meantime, I need a guided ear so the world will know that Mike was here. So now I'm here, standing in the gap, leaning on my faith. Lord, help me find a sane space to lay these broken pieces, preparing for the day where I can feel the sun's warmth on my face, looking justice in the eyes, knowing that finally I am okay. Thank you.
preacher is going to tell us about the press conference and where we're going to do it. I thank you so much for your attention given to these queens, and I thank these queens so much for having the perseverance and tenacity to define the legacy of your children and a lot to let them define the legacy of your children. So give them another round of applause. It's their blood that is allowing us to carry on. And I will say this, as I got a text from Tammy Katie Wright, and I had told her about you all, and she said, thank you all, because it really is about trying to find something within you to get up and keep fighting. I am reminded, Fernandez, that, Martin Luther King said that the coward asked the question, is it safe? Then he said expediency, asked the question, is it politically correct? Then he said, oh, vanity comes along and asks the question, is it popular? But then he said, conscience comes along and asks the question, is it right? And Dr. King concluded, there comes a time when one must take a position like these mothers that are neither popular nor politically correct or not even safe. But there comes a time when one must take a position because their conscience tells them it is the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do for us to fight for our children. It is the right thing to do for us to stand up for our children. It is the right thing to do for us to speak up for our children. Because if we don't fight for our children, we can't expect nobody else to fight for Mike, to fight for Trayvon, to fight for Stephante, to fight for Eric, or to fight for Dante, or to fight for George Floyd. And we got to fight for our children until hell freezes over. And then we got to be ready to fight on the ice. That's how much our children need to know that we're willing to fight for them, because our children's lives matters. Thank you all. God bless you. Thank you, Reverend Al. Thank you, National Action Network. God bless you. Thank you, Rev.
God bless you, man. Let's give Brother Crump another sense of love. Let him know how much we appreciate him and these mothers. Come on, let's show them some real love, some real National Action Network love. Come on. Amen. Amen. Come on. We certainly want to pray for these mothers and for Brother Crump. He's got a heavy burden on him, and I want him to be reinforced by the prayers of those who know the power of prayer as he goes forward. I want to ask you we want to leave here now. All of us have to leave this room. They're going to sanitize it, and you'll be able to come back in at 1:15. Well, I guess we'll move it down maybe to 1:30. Come back in at 1 what? 1 what? 1:25. All right, so please, but go out, walk in the sunlight, get some air, come on back in. But we all got to leave the room so that it can be reprocessed. Thank you for being here. You are wonderful, and we look forward to the rest of today's activities.
Hi.